Good evening, sports fans, and welcome to the All Balls Sports Show. Brought to you in part by True Love's Pizza and Grits at 1144 Riverside Drive. A discussion of any and all sports, local, regional, and national. And now, here are your hosts, Dan James, Eddie Bobo, Ty Cobb, and the coach, Vance Ballou.
Thank you, Bill Jones. Welcome into the All the Ball Sports Show for this Tuesday evening, the 10th day of October. Glad to have you along, and welcome in, Eddie Bobo.
How you doing, Dan?
I'm doing fine. Tough week for some Central High School graduates, and I'm going to bring this up at the top of the show since we do have Kirk Shepard here, who's with our Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Benton Foster passed away early Sunday morning. He's 23 years old. He was the drumline instructor for Columbia Central Band. That is extremely tough. Anytime a parent loses a child, Joe Foster is his dad, and it just breaks my heart because I've got really close ties to the Columbia Central Band program. We'd be remiss if we did not say something about Benton and what he brought to the band program.
Well, and he served not just, Joe served not just Columbia Central, but he also served on the Board of Education. He was
Right.
He was actually board chairman for a while, just to serve the county school system for a long time. Just an awesome man, and I feel so sorry for him. As a father, it breaks my heart to think of what he's having to go through.
Mine too. And funeral services for Benton will be at 1 o'clock on Friday at West 7th Street Church of Christ here in Columbia. So our hearts and prayers go out to the Foster family. And then secondly, one of the guys who appears on the show here, and a buddy of Eddie and I for a long time, Chip Matlock, his grandson, Luke, passed away Saturday from cancer that he had, and his services are tomorrow at 2 o'clock in Murfreesboro on the 11th of October.
That I did not know.
12-year-old boy.
Yeah.
And I was looking on the internet just yesterday. I had a little break at work, so I pulled up Luke's, different web pages about him and stuff, and he's been used by the MTSU baseball team as kind of their inspiration, and I think it was last year maybe they did a kind of a mock signing where he was signing a letter of intent. Now, I mean, it had the big press conference, the whole 9 yards, and that meant so much to that young man, and it just showed how much he was loved and everything, not only by his family but by the MTSU baseball team and others. So,
but Luke's parents are Honey and Clark Denson. They're from here in Columbia. Of course, Dr. Denson passed away years ago of cancer as well. And grandmother is Kathy Denson. So our hearts and prayers go out to all of them. Hard week for Columbia Central this week.
Yes. Oh, I hate it.
I do too. Especially children should never pass away before their family.
No, it's not the natural
progression.
progression.
It's not the natural order of things. It is not. So anyway, Kirk Shepard is with us. We've been trying to have you on, but your daughter's been involved in soccer. So
I know. You got to be a dad first. You got to be a dad first.
He calls me up last week and he says, "Hey man," he said, "Look," he said, "Anna Kat's in. She's in a tournament on Tuesday night. And I just can't." I said, "Whoa, slow down. Hold your roll there, son." I said, "We got this." I said, "We can take care of it. You can come in whenever you want to. I mean, this is not the last time you'll ever be here." So
I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, she had. They won their first. They won the first round of the district tournament on that Saturday, and so they had to play again on on Tuesday. And the bad part was if it was at home, it would have been fine. I could have done this and then gotten over there. Wouldn't have been no. It was away.
Because we're only 5 minutes from the stadium.
Only 5 minutes. Yeah, it wasn't a problem. No, it was an away game, so I had to leave like at 4:30 to get there. So it was either or. It wasn't. There was no
we'll give a shout out to Greg Siglowski, their coach.
Yes.
Coach Greg is an interesting character. If you've never seen him coach, he's a little high strung.
Just a little bit. And I've known Greg a long time. Before Greg was at Central, he was at Whitthorne Middle School, and so I worked with him there for a number of years. And he's a great guy. He is a little high strung.
Hey, and he's got a kid on the freshman squad that we called his name and number quite a few times last night.
Hey, and Greg runs a pretty mean scoreboard.
Yeah, he does. Matter of fact,
That's
he
right.
ran the scoreboard for us one front. Well, as a matter of fact, the big game with Spring Hill is when he ran the scoreboard, and he had never run the scoreboard before.
Wasn't sure what he was supposed to do when he got there. Yeah, he had no clue.
No, but he did great. He's a quick learner, man.
He did.
Yeah.
He did a good job.
I didn't have to show him but once.
I give him a hard time. They had the soccer team has a team app, and they can put out information, and it's great for parents to know. Well, invariably, it would be Sunday morning at about 11:05. Greg is pushing this information out, so I'm sitting in church and going, bzz, 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 bzz. Dadgum, Sid. Quit being a heathen. Goodness, quit that.
He's already been to early mass.
That's right. Yeah. I'm like, goodness, what are you doing?
Now I got to brag on Kurt a little bit. He was a former school resource officer for Murray County, and you were my press box SRO for what, 10, 11 years?
Something like that, yeah.
I know we go back a ways.
Yeah.
And
I know what you're fixing to talk about.
No. I'm not. No. Here's the deal on that. Here's the deal on that. What happened in the press box stays in the press box.
Okay.
But I wanted to personally and publicly thank you for being in the press box all those years and maintaining a semblance of order in the press box.
And that's true. We had a lot of fun. I really enjoyed being up there, and it was a lot of fun. And
even now we still love having.
Yeah, I still go by and visit and hang out up in there when I can.
And you've even set in for spotting.
I have in my role as with FCA, and still when I was I filled in a few times as an SRO just because they needed somebody to help. It was a good spot to be because you can see everything, and I could get somewhere pretty quick if I needed to from the press box. And most nights it's pretty calm, but there were a few times where I actually it's hard to say, but you have to do a law enforcement type thing involved. Yep. I can remember one particular team where their coaches got a little more than excited. I'm used to them yelling, but they started hitting and kicking things.
That would have been Anderson County.
I wasn't going to name any. I wasn't going to name anybody.
Oh, no. Our show, Anderson County.
And I had to go over there and speak to the guys. Hey, we're not going to destroy the press box. I'm sorry.
You know that if you hadn't have done that, Mrs. Janes was going to do that.
She was pretty upset. Yeah, it was because, like I said, they were kicking and hitting things. And I understand in the middle of a game, and this was, of course, the playoffs, and everybody's pumped and they're going and they're excited. But I'm like, guys, there's an element of self-control here.
And you have had to escort a person or two out of the press box.
I have had to do that in the past. That is true.
But now I did say, Officer Shepard, would you please escort this person from the press box?
That is correct.
That was probably as civil as I was going to be at that particular moment.
Yeah, because the rest of it was going to be bad.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, and I ended up having to. That particular person I escorted out, if I remember correctly, one of the people I had to escort out, I ended up having to escort them out of the game within about 3 minutes because they left the press box and then went after somebody in the stands, and I had to go down there. No, you need to leave. I'm sorry. Just go home because you're not calming down.
That's true. That's
I had to
true.
go down. You go now.
He was the calming force before the storm in the press box. Is exactly what he was. So thank you very much for all that.
Yeah.
Glad to do it. I
But
enjoy
you
it.
have resigned your position, and you're now with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Give us a little background on the FCA. We hear about it all the time.
Okay.
We hear about the meet you at the pole, all the gatherings that you guys have in the schools. So give us some background on FCA.
FCA started back in 1954. I mean, it's been around literally 63 years now. You can remember that, can't you?
Yes,
It's
I do.
it's as old as you are. Is that what
Thank
you're
you.
going to say?
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Big.
And
I'm a big boy. I can take it. Come on, bring it on. Bring it on.
You might want to wipe that off your nose.
Yeah, I know. I just got tagged.
FCA is about ministering to athletes, coaches, and all whom they influence, which means everybody. And we like to minister to coaches and through coaches. We minister to athletes in schools. We minister to just kids. You can be in the band. You can be in the guitar club. It doesn't matter what you're in. You can be part of FCA. And we're really excited. And FCA does that in some unique ways. Most of the time, what most people think about when they think of FCA is the FCA club that we have at school,
Right.
which is a great opportunity. It's student-initiated and student-led. We have teachers that sponsor it, and those kids meet, and we have clubs in Murray and Marshall County that run anywhere from 8 or 10 kids to we've got some that have about 200 kids in it.
Wow.
And so it's just a great opportunity for kids to be able to come and hear about Christ, and for Christians to come and be able to have a place where they can meet together and be able to and show how they can impact their campus. That's one of the things that we do, and I'm really excited about it. It's kind of what we call the face of FCA. But there's other things that FCA does. We do a program called Character Coach Program. And what that is those are either youth pastors or just volunteers from the community that want to come in and work with a sports team. And these are the kids have asked students. Again, it's student initiated. I want to make sure I point that out. Student initiated. Students ask, "Hey, we would like to have a character coach," and so we bring in, we train somebody. They're vetted. We do a history and check on them, make sure they're okay, and then we train them, and they come in and they give a Bible-based character lesson to the students, to the athletes, the team, and usually that occurs before a game. It may be once a week, maybe twice a week, depends on what the coach and the students and everybody works out for the character coach to do.
But what better way than to vet someone than to have a former law enforcement officer who's going to have the knowledge and the skill
That's true.
to be able to do that and know where to go to find that information.
Well, they're actually vetted. They have to do an online. We call it a ministry leadership application, and so they have to fill out a form, and then they're actually vetted through our National Support Center. So they're checked out pretty thoroughly, and of course, part of it also is that locally I know them, and I'm going to check
Right.
with and make sure that they're not some creepo or whatever before I put them around any kids.
Oh, yeah.
My passion is working with students and helping students, and so I want to make sure that we can impact kids in a positive way. And the Character Coach program is a great opportunity to do that. We have more and more character coaches that want to be a part of it, and they just what happens is they become a part of that team. I know,
Well, it's like Brother Bob Vassar, who is the character coach for Columbia Central, been there for ever and a
16,
day.
17 years,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
He's been there a long time. And he's a fixture now. And that's what you want. You want them to be so ingrained that as the kids grow, that they see that as part of as part of normal. I'll tell this story because I was a character coach at Whitthorne for a number of years for the football team and then for the boys and girls basketball teams. We had a student that had went through Whitthorne, went through Central, graduated, and was playing at the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, playing football for them a few years ago. They didn't have a game on Saturday, so he was coming home for a home football game Friday night. He came in, he saw me, And hey, coach, and he came up, gave me the bro hug. You know, we do the bro hug thing. We're just chatting. We're talking about how are things going at school, and I was, just basic, small talk. And he said, "Well, coach, it's just different. It's different at college." And I, in all honesty, I misunderstood him. I said, well, of course it's going to be. You've moved up a level. It's going to be more intense. You've got a lot more work that you have to do. And I said, it is different. And he said, no, that's not what I mean. He said, we don't have chapel services. I said, what? He said, well, we've always had. He said, you did it in middle school at Whitthorne. He said, Brother Bob did it in high school. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't seem like football without chapel. And so I talked to him and I said, well, look, you're a freshman. Things will change as you get old in there more. You can have more influence. And the reality is, before he finished, they actually had a team chaplain for the school. Wow. FCA had a team chaplain put in place there. But what I started thinking about after he told me that was what he said and what he really meant were two different things. He said, hey, it doesn't seem like football. What he meant was when he associated with football, he thought about Jesus. Mm-hmm. When he thinks football, he thinks Jesus. Now, I realize your fan, the people that are listening right now, you've got this mental image of Jesus with a football helmet on, and that's not what I'm talking about. What it is he took his faith outside of the church walls and into other things that he was doing. Sure. And this wasn't about him becoming a Christian. This was about him taking his faith and into other areas. And for the rest of his life, he will see football and he will think about his faith and about the lessons he learned, the character lessons he learned from the Bible. And that's something that's going to be ingrained in him for the rest of his life. And so that's the power of the character coach. And that's a passion of mine to see more and more character coaches take place.
That kind of reminds me of a story Jerry Clower told when he played football for Mississippi State University, and he said
that was back when they had leather helmets, wasn't it?
or no helmet.
No helmets at all.
But anyway, he was telling a story that they were getting ready to play SMU, Southern Methodist University. He said, and they had a defensive tackle that was all-American. He said, and I was just a backup player at the time, but he said one of our offensive guards got hurt that was playing directly across from this guy, and said the coach hollered and says, Jerry, get in there and keep number 74 off our quarterback. He's killing us. He said, so I got in there, and he said it had been raining like crazy. The field's muddy and everything. And he said the first snap, he said, this man hits me in the back of the head and drives my face down into the mud. And he steps on me as he's going back to sack our quarterback. He said, I finally get up and I'm spitting mud out, and I look at him and said, fella, you play for SMU, and I've looked you up, and you are an ordained minister. And you're treating me like this. How can you do that? He said he just pointed his big finger at me and says, the Bible says the meek shall inherit the earth.
Well, I'll tell you a story. Since you're telling jokes, I'll tell one here. One of the other things that FCA does is we do camps, and we send kids to individual camp, leadership camp, and competition camp. We also do team camps, and we're really lucky in our area right now. We've got two teams, Columbia Central football team and Mount Pleasant football team. Both go to our team football camp. We also have team basketball camps and cheerleading camps and everything, other team camps. But our football camp, we've got two teams that go. And one of the things, it's a 7v7. There's a time for linemen. We've moved the linemen over, and they do certain competitions too. So everybody's getting trained. The camp that our kids here go to is the one at Tennessee Tech. And when they get finished, they play these other teams from all over Middle Tennessee, and when they get finished with their game, they all get together. They can take a knee in the middle of the field and they pray. And this summer we're at camp, and of course I've never been on Tennessee Tech in their stadium where I wasn't burning up or freezing.
Right.
Because I've been there for the state championship and I've been there for that camp. And, so, and you're kneeling on the AstroTurf and you feel the heat just
So you
coming.
went through both extremes.
I've gone through both. I've never been there for a calm, normal day. Well, these kids, they get together in the middle of the field and the coach says, all right, boys, I need somebody to pray. This was not our team, by the way. This is not Central or Mount Pleasant, but we had this happen this summer. They get together after the game and they kneel down. He says, boys, I need somebody to pray. Boys, I need somebody to step up and pray for me. Coach says, second time. Boys, I need somebody to pray. Somebody going to step up here and pray for me? And finally, one of the players says, hell, Coach, I'll pray. Dear Lord Jesus. Oh, my.
Whoa.
Well, you got the kids there that need to be there then.
Yeah.
How often do you get a team that keeps bringing kids into the program? I mean, is there a certain number of kids that you have in the program to start, and then they sort of bring the flock in?
Are you talking about for our meetings?
Yeah, exactly. For your meetings, or they're wanting to be a part of something.
It really is. It's up to the kids. It's like I said. It's at every school,
right?
And we do leadership training events for our student leaders to try to help them to give them skills and
recruit.
to be able to get them to bring other kids in.
Sure.
But ultimately it's up to those students because it is student initiated, student led, and I told you we've got some that have 8 or 10 kids that come, and we've got others that have 200, and it's because the student leaders are really out there and pushing it and talking to other people and drawing them in, and the power that I don't think that a lot of these athletes understand the power they have. I was in Muletown Coffee a few weeks ago, and I'm wearing an FCA shirt. I was there to meet a pastor to talk about an upcoming event, and while I was in there's another gentleman there, and he was about 40, and he said, you with FCA? And I said, yeah. Shirt? So yes, I am. He said, well, hey, and he began to tell me, he said, man, I love FCA. He said, I'm a pastor now myself. He said, but I want to tell you a story about FCA and what FCA meant in my life. He said, I grew up, he said, man, I had turned my back on God. My mother had ran off, had just had it with the family and ran off. My dad shut down when this happened. I had turned my back on God, didn't want to have anything to do with him. He said, I was a freshman in high school. I was as tall as I am now, which is a little over 6 foot. He said, I weighed 140 pounds soaking wet. I was a string bean. I got called all the kinds of, string bean, all these names. He said, I got picked on every day. And he said, one day, this senior football player walks up to me and he said, hey, you want to go to FCA? I went, you talking to me? He said, yeah, you want to go to FCA? Sure. He said, I'm walking in there with a senior football player and I'm all excited. He said, and we sat down. I'm sitting down next to him and all I'm thinking is, well, I'm not going to get picked on right now. I got a senior football player next to me. And he said, and they had their talk, and he said, then the lesson went all right. He said, it was pretty fun. The guy looked at me when we were done. He said, did you have fun? And I said, yeah. He said, want to come back next week? Sure. He said, and I went back. He said, and it began. He said, I went every week. He said, my life changed because one senior came and talked to this little freshman and drew me in. He said, He said these kids don't understand the power that they have in being able to invite somebody in. And that I try to. He said, I want you to tell kids that. I want you to tell. And I've spoken to several groups since that occurred, and I've told them that story. I said, guys, you have the ability to change other people's lives. Right. He became a Christian. He later on became a pastor, all because this one senior football player said, hey, you want to go with me?
Right.
It makes a huge impact.
I only hope that somebody, before they tore the old gym down at Central, took a picture of the FCA logo that was on the office up there where Rachel Moore used to have her office, that somebody has taken a picture of that somewhere. And
that
I
was
hope they
painted
have.
there, and
it was painted. It was beautiful.
It was gorgeous, and I want to say that's been there over 20 years.
At least,
yeah.
It's been there for as long as I can remember, and I was hoping that somebody would have taken a picture of that.
Honestly, don't know. I'm sure somebody did, but I really don't know. I'd love to find a photo of it. It'd be great if we had one.
I'm just wondering if an individual did that, whether an art class got together and did that. I mean, I don't know.
I have no idea. I don't know. It'd be neat to find out.
That's
and I'm sure somebody, maybe Hardy Lloyd or somebody, would be able to tell us that because he's been around so long.
That's the image that I get.
Coach
of FCA.
Claiborne might.
Well, he may know too.
Either one of them would be the two guys I would call first about it because they would know.
I mean, I'd like to get a picture of that and at least put it in the archives.
Oh, absolutely.
On the new the new entrance to the gymnasium, which I snuck a peek out there today. There's
the new entrance to
there's a lot of workers that are working around there, and of course I don't have a hard hat on, and Philip doesn't have a hard hat on either. So we're going to look at the new band room and the new auditorium. Well, we couldn't get in the auditorium because they were working right there at the door, but we did sneak into the band room. So, just saying, it's going to be beautiful out there.
I've seen the artists, the renditions of it and the drawings, and I can't wait to see it because they've done a really good job on that school as far as just making it first class. And I think that my dad used to say any job worth doing is worth doing right.
Oh yeah,
and I think they've done that in this case. I really do. They've really made an effort to make it pretty, and it should be. It should be any of our schools when the school's done. It should be done well.
And I want to tell everybody right now, what we have in there is a temporary sound system. Okay, don't mess with a guy who's put the temporary sound system in the school for pep rallies. Just leave him alone. He's doing the best he can with what he has.
Whatever you do, don't turn the lights off.
That's right. That's right.
Hey, we're 2-0 with the lights off.
That's true. We've done it. It's happened twice.
You remember that, Hoss? We're 2-0 with the lights. When the lights go off, we're 2-0. Keep that in mind. But really, we've got a temporary sound system in there. I went in and put in some new wireless mics that I'm going to bring Friday, and things will be much better. And I adjusted stuff so for the pep rally and for the Lion Olympics, everything will be fine. So y'all just leave that guy alone just messing with it.
Now, will they end up, once it's all done, let me ask you this question.
Sure.
Once it's all done, will they need to put some sound absorbing material in there on those walls, some to be able to deal with the
be honest with you, I have not been read into the program, so I do not know.
I was just asking your professional opinion on, because you're the guy that understands that a lot more than I do.
If it were me, and you had that many, well, now what they're looking at is bodies will absorb sound.
That's right.
Now, if those stands are full, then there's nothing to worry about. But those stands are not. That sound's going to bounce all over that gymnasium out there, and it ain't going to be pretty. I'm just saying, just from my years of acoustical work. Wait a minute. Hang on. I did not. Now, here we go. Now.
You're just a voice. Nobody knows who you are.
The question of what you're there for. I mean, if you're there for a basketball game, how concerned are you with the acoustics? Now, if you've got some kind of a concert or a production or something going on there, then it might be different. So, I mean, they've got a theater as well, though, right?
Right. Yeah, they will have once it opens up in December or 1st of January.
But they will always do they will always have pep rallies and things like that. So you're always going to have that occurring.
And once they get the new sound system in, and let me explain how that's going to work. The back of the auditorium and the crow's nest is going to be where the control room will be for the cafeteria, for the big gym, and for the little gym. And all three of those areas are going to be run from the master control room in the auditorium. I ain't got no idea how they're going to do it. I hadn't been read into the program yet. but I want to see how they're going to do it.
I'm sure Dr. White has it all figured out.
Well, I'm sure he does too. I hope so.
He keeps it up. He keeps it going. Of course, my question is it going to look like, Mission Control for all the knobs and buttons?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
And you walk in going,
you will have a mixer board there to do.
There will be a 32-channel Allen and Heath brand new board in that auditorium. Now, I'm to assume we don't like to use that word.
Nope.
Nope.
For obvious reasons.
It's been posted on Facebook by Maurice Patton. You don't want to assume. But that's all I'm going to say about that.
All right, Forrest.
I'm going to be like, that's all I'm going to say about that.
That's right.
No, it's a little more board than what they probably need, but I'm to assume that is to incorporate the cafeteria, the auditorium, and the 2 gyms.
2 gyms.
So
It's better
we
too
will
much
see.
than not enough.
Exactly. Better to not need it.
Better
And
to
have
have
it
it and not need it than to need it and not have it.
That's
as
what my
grand-
wife says.
because you can
That's what my
add stuff to
grandfather
it.
said.
Well, you
Sure
can just
you-
go right next door to Mrs. James. Will tell you the same thing.
Well, there you go.
There you
I ain't
go.
It's
going there.
unanimous.
Maurice Patton from the Daily Herald joins us, ladies and gentlemen. We're glad to have you.
I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad to get a sports nut in here. We've got some things to talk about.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've been here.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, usually it's a Thursday night show from
Yeah.
True Love's Pizza and Grits, but we're sitting here talking about FCA and the good work that Kirk does. He was he was an SRO for years and years and years, but then became district director or area director for the Fellowship of Christian Athletes.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
Now, tell me about Anacat. I mean, how many kids have you had play sports?
I have
First of all, how many kids you got?
I have 4 children.
Okay.
My oldest is John, and
Yeah.
he'll be 29 in February, and then I have Stephen that's 26, and David is 20, and at UT Knoxville, and then Anna Catherine is 17 and is a senior at Columbia Central, and then I have a wonderful and great daughter-in-law, Chelsea, who's 28, and she's 27, about to be 28.
You're going to cry come May 22nd.
Oh yeah, there won't be. I mean,
The tears will
She's
flow.
the last
You
one.
know that, don't you?
She's the last one, and
You feel free to come in the
yeah.
press. Come
Does
up
she-
there in the press box with
does
me, where I run the sound for all that, and you can just
well, in
water
all honesty,
all you
I don't know
want
what to do because usually, for the last 18 years, I've been at the graduation, but I've always been working as an officer. Now they had special spot for me when my kids graduated, but I don't know. I'm not an officer anymore, so I don't know where
a
I'll be.
special
That's-
spot for you. So you were even working when you
I was working, and they just put. Yeah, I was working. I would work graduation, and they moved me around where I could. Normally, I was at the back, and they put me around at the front for my children's
They
graduation.
couldn't give you off for your kids' graduation.
I just.
Well, I guess that's good job security, though. I
Well,
guess When
you're
you're that needed.
Well, that's actually, we always had extra because that is a huge thing in Columbia.
Yep.
There's a huge number of people that come to the graduation, and I always do graduation. We get done doing traffic, and then I'd go change clothes, and we'd go to project graduation. I've done. Somebody asked me, "Well, this will be your last. Last year was your last one." I said, "No, I got one more because my daughter's graduating."
Right. Yeah.
But I've done since 2000. I've done project graduation.
Every
And
year.
just every year. So, and I can still do it. I can still stay up all night. It doesn't
Hey,
bother
look
me a
who else
bit.
come in the door.
What I've discovered is after 18 years is that it's takes a lot longer to recover. I can do it, but it takes a lot longer to get over it. So
Speaking of your children, you said your youngest son's at UT.
at UT Knoxville, yes.
And has Anna picked her college of choice yet?
We over fall break we visited a couple of different colleges. We've got a couple more to visit. We looked at University of North Alabama there in Florence, and then we looked at University of Memphis. And University of Memphis was nice, but she just thought it was too big. Right now, she really enjoys.
Is she looking to continue her soccer, or
She really doesn't doesn't want to do that. She wants to focus on school, and
Okay.
she is wanting to be a special education teacher and
Oh,
work
okay.
with special
Cool.
needs kids.
Yeah.
She when she was a 6th grader, they started a program at Whitthorne, and I'm so grateful for the special ed, the self-contained teacher there, Rachel Reinhardt, and then Coach Ackley. Pardon me, I said Coach Ackley. Coach Yancey, who was there then, Elizabeth Yancey was the PE teacher, and they worked together to do a program where they brought in kids during their homeroom time, which was during lunch, and the kids would give up lunch and they would eat with these kids that were in self-contained class. And several of the students, they gave it up and they were happy to. And for Anna Catherine, it was the passion.
Yeah.
It became her calling, and she really, that is what she wants to do, and she loves doing it.
Well, God
Now
bless
we
her.
cannot not talk about wife Molly, because there ain't nobody in Murray County who does not know your wife.
That is true, Molly Patton.
I
Shepard,
graduated
yes.
with her in high school.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Molly is
A absolute. Now you may disagree, but anytime I'm around her, she's an absolute sweetheart.
She is absolutely a sweetheart. She is wonderful, and just a great.
Now remember,
person.
this is going to be archived forever. So
She is. She is most definitely a morning person. When she starts getting sleepy, when it gets time to go to bed, she's like, "Go away." And the children have learned. She goes to bed, and the children will come in and they'll go, "Hey, I need to talk to Mom." And they'll go like, "She's in bed."
Oh,
Never mind. Unless it's an emergency, we don't, you don't wake her
it
up.
can wait.
He can wait. He can wait.
Yeah.
But she's wonderful. She loves sports,
Yeah.
and she's a huge football fan. And I'm up in the press box, and she's down in the stands, and
Her and Karen Fisher.
Karen Davis and
Karen
a few
Davis.
others, and she's screaming. They're in there screaming and yelling, and I said, the reason our marriages worked so well is because I'm not sitting next to her. Because she gets excited.
It's
She starts,
archived
"Get
now."
your seat!" And she starts it, and you'll walk away bruised. The children, when they were little, we'd go to a ball game, and they go, "I'll be good. Please don't make me sit by her. Please, I'll be good. I promise." Because she gets so excited.
Yeah.
She gets into it, and she loves it. And she's going to hurt me for saying that.
Ty, you were a little shocked just then, weren't you?
That hurt.
And that's nothing. And she gets really excited. She's got nails, and she'll grab you and go, "Did you see?" And you're like, "Oh, darling, yes, I saw it. Thank you."
So
I-
her passion runs through all sports.
I can
all
attest.
sports.
Okay.
And
I
she
can
is
attest
the
that
biggest fan for her kids, the biggest supporter. All of our children are like, "Dad, she's just so loud. Can you get her?" I said, "Son, she is going to be your biggest booster.
She-
Get over it.
Yeah.
Son, daughter, get over it. She is
she
going to
has
be your
been
biggest
that way her entire life,
Yes.
and
Just absolutely wonderful and passionate, and she does, she's a teacher at Central High School, and still and just supportive to students, and just always what can she do to help the kid become.
she's always got a smile on her face.
She does.
That's what
Absolutely, she does.
always.
Uh,
And somebody else who always has a smile on his face, ladies and gentlemen, Ty Cobb is with us.
I thought it was 6 o'clock. I'm sorry. I'm about 35 minutes late. but
Glad you could join us.
Not a problem at all. Did you go to the Titans game last night?
I did. I
And?
did. It was a good game, but
But you didn't leave. Did you leave the stadium?
I stayed to the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Sure did.
In other words, you were tightening up.
Perfect football weather.
it
He
was.
saved his leaving the stadium early for Saturdays.
Yeah.
we don't even talk about
This
that.
will be.
we don't want to talk about that.
we're gonna
Maurice,
talk
yeah.
about- we got Maurice here to talk about.
And
this
I got some
stuff.
questions to ask Maurice
Okay.
about Tennessee football.
I
what
won't know, but
about-
I'll give you my best guess.
But what about Derrick Henry, 72 yards, letting the beast loose last night and letting
He's-
him run?
He's solid. I've always
I'm
liked
impressed by the
Derrick
guy's
Henry.
upper body. I mean,
I've always
goodness
thought he was-
gracious.
I like him, and Titans have a good run game, but
They just need to utilize him.
I
more.
think the
they
Titans
had-
are
but they
8 and
had
18.
to.
Though. I
But they
just-
had to because Mariota can't get out of the pocket.
Well, he proved that he wasn't taking any hits last night. He went down quick when he
There
scrambled.
was one play last night in particular where you knew he wasn't 100% because
That's
they were
right.
down in the red zone. It was like 3rd and goal from the 5, and I'm sitting there thinking this is QB draw right here, and he wound up throwing it out the back of the end zone for one of their 5 field goals. I don't know if there's an NFL team that kicks more field goals than the Titans.
Hey, Suckup's getting a lot of work.
He is getting a lot of work. I hope he's icing that hip after the game. But I like the fact that he was able to operate from the pocket last night. I think that's a real growth step for him.
Not only that, but the offensive line stepped up and protected
finally.
him. Yeah.
Well, one thing's for sure, and I've always said it, in the NFL, you have got to have a quarterback. And you can see the Colts are suffering without without Andrew Luck.
And Green Bay is going to be suffering big time.
But the Colts quarterback last night, he did a good job.
He didn't do a bad job. I mean, he's not Luck, but for the time he's been there and for what he had to work with, I thought he did a pretty good job. Early on, you thought he might be able to do enough to get him a win.
I thought,
But,
and another game Sunday that, you had the leading rated quarterback in the league, and he looked like crap Sunday. I mean, Steelers made him look bad. And, of course, Steelers is one of those teams that if they're on, they're going to beat you. I mean, it's just –
Steelers win close games. They win the 12-9,
they win
15-14. They win they always have.
But, there were some scores this past Sunday that really made you think. I mean, what New Orleans did to Detroit and what my Falcons did against Miami. I mean, you just never know from one week to the next.
But everybody's asking what's happened to the Falcons.
I hate to blame it on Super Bowl hangover, but
it happens, doesn't it?
Apparently it does. I mean,
Miami beat Atlanta, didn't they?
Yeah, 20-17 after the Falcons were up 17-0 at halftime.
Yeah, that's right.
There again, everybody's wondering what happened
Jay
to Miami.
Cutler.
Yeah.
Well, I think some of that was chemistry with Jay Cutler too. I could be wrong, but coming in, they're short. And if they can really match everything up, I think Miami's solid. But I'm a Dolphins fan, so I show a little favoritism there. But
I just don't think you know from one week to the
you
next.
don't, and I didn't see Kansas City getting beat either. This
has been the weirdest. This has been the weirdest year I've seen in NFL.
And we're only 6-7 weeks in.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, look how many teams are 3-3, 3-4. Stuff like that.
It's just like the Browns. The Browns could slip up and beat the Titans or anybody.
No.
I mean, they'll get a win somewhere.
Anybody can beat anybody on any given day.
And if the Titans aren't on the top of their game this weekend, especially with it being a short week.
Yep.
Oh yes.
And that's the thing. You can't. If you're the Titans, you can't win a big game like they just won last night and then turn around and lose at Cleveland. You're taking one step forward and 2 steps back. You can't do that, especially if you're going to be the 10-6, 11-5 team that everybody's picked you to be this year.
I think they're 8-8.
But nobody wants to go to Cleveland. I'm sorry,
including Cleveland players.
They keep. I got drafted.
I got drafted to where?
Yeah, right.
Well, they're going, can I play basketball?
Yeah.
Baseball or
absolutely.
Baseball.
Water polo.
The Indians did well this year.
They did.
I'm until getting beat, but they did okay.
Where is the Yankees down 0-2 or what's the series?
They won last night,
2-1.
And Houston was winning when I left the office, 3-0.
Well, we can click it over and find out because we have a little sports in the background back here, so we're not exactly sure
Yankees
where we're going
need to tie it up tonight.
I think you're going to FS1.
What were you going to ask me, Dan? Yankees fan or what?
No. What I was going to say was let's shift gears and let's talk about the University of Tennessee.
I was going to say that for the last 5 minutes, but no, I'm just kidding.
Well,
because there's not really 5 minutes to talk about when it comes to Tennessee's offense.
I'm just hoping we can hold them under 100.
Yeah. Well,
there's not much to talk about.
It kind of reminds me of what who was the coach for years and years at MTSU?
Boots Steinley.
Kind of reminds me of what Boots said once when they went down to play Florida State University.
Hey, they were leading at halftime.
Yeah, but somebody asked him, said, Boots, where's the team going to stay? He said, somewhere close to a hospital. Yeah.
I mean,
wow.
I mean,
Boots was one of those who would just say anything on an interview. He didn't care.
To know Boots is to
He's
love
smooth.
him.
But they
he's
went
smooth.
down there to Florida State, and at halftime was beating Florida State.
Yep.
Of course, second half come along, and it's just like MTSU wasn't there, you know.
But that's, I think that proved what a lot of people knew about MTSU at that time. I mean, that was a Division I AA program at the time. They didn't have the numbers, but they had Kelly Holcomb on that team, who went on and played for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah. Well,
they had they had Joe Campbell on that team. They
Yeah.
went out to Nebraska and hung in there for a little bit along that same time.
remember
But,
Right.
But in the second half, the numbers would start to get to them. But that was the start of what you're seeing over at MTSU right now, and a lot of that is owed to Boots Donnelly,
So
as in MTSU.
yeah, I was one of the original members of the Blue Raider Network as far as board operators over there at WGNS and Monty Hale and all those folks. And we always had Boots in to do an interview, and always ran the board when Monty was doing the interview for him. And Boots was to say that Boots was a colorful character is an understatement.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that
exactly.
doesn't quite get it.
No, it doesn't.
I think even now when you think of MTSU and particularly MTSU football, you think of Boots Donnelly.
And that was the time, and it was at that same time when Jimmy Earl was a basketball coach. Oh, he was hilarious on interviews too. So
a couple of really dry guys.
Yeah.
And they could stick you, and like 5 or 6 seconds later, it's like,
oh yeah,
ouch.
yeah. You'd realize you just got stuck.
Right.
Well, Ty, what's your prediction on the Tennessee game?
well, this might shock you. I hope Butch Jones gets to finish the year. I do think. I mean, I think he's got some tough games. I think Kentucky is going to be a tough game. I think we know what Alabama holds this weekend, and this will be the first year I hadn't been to Tuscaloosa probably in about 10 years. I'm not sure, but I just
was
can't.
Was that by choice?
That was by choice.
Okay.
I can't.
Understand.
That's an awful long drive. That's an awful long drive to suffer.
It's almost closer to than Knoxville, actually.
But it's an awful long drive back.
But
and this
After
game
that.
might just not be for public consumption. This might be one you want to watch in the privacy of your own home or whatever.
Yeah.
So I guess what I want to ask all of y'all, and we can go around the room. Do you think Butch Jones survives the season? And then if he survives the season, what's enough to get him to next year? 7-5.
He may survive the season, but I say he's done at
But Maurice, you and I talked about first year 8-4. Do you see that?
I don't see 8-4. I think, like you said, I think every game from here on out is a toss up at best. And Saturday certainly doesn't fit that category.
When we didn't beat South Carolina. That because everybody early in the year had it. Well, that's a win, but we lost that one. We haven't scored a touchdown in what is it, 10 quarters now?
I think that's right.
I think that is right.
Here's what I'm scared is going to happen: is that the physicality of Alabama is going to get some Tennessee players injured. Now, maybe not injured to the point of knocking you totally out of the game, but injured to the point of, is it going to hurt you for the rest of those games coming up? Because just their physicality alone is going to be brutal. It's going to be a brutal game. And I know that Saban's not going to call off the dogs because he wants those 2s and those 3s to play as hard as those 1s.
But those guys are playing like they've got something to prove. I saw them against Vanderbilt a few weeks ago, and they beat those guys 59-0. And Vanderbilt is not a bad football team.
No, they're not.
They turned around and beat Ole Miss the next week 66-3.
Yeah.
I'm wondering just how badly do they want to beat UT? Because
I
UT
think bad.
is a program that traditionally, obviously, has been on par with them. And so,
Well, how bad does a Tennessee fan want to beat Florida? as bad as you can beat them.
Yep.
And
Right.
how bad does a Tennessee fan want to beat Alabama like myself?
That's right.
As bad as we
you
can
can
beat
beat 'em.
'em.
But-
So I think the feelings are mutual
Oh yeah.
for Alabama.
It's
The only I think for Alabama, the only team they want to beat worse than Tennessee is of course Auburn.
Yeah. And that will be a game. I do believe
And I
that'll
think
be a
you're
game.
right on that.
And I think, and they said about it, I give credit and kudos to 104.5. They said the Clemson game last year was the turning point to where Saban said, enough. This will not happen again. We will not have this on our plate at all, ever again.
You're losing in the national championship game.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I like what he told the reporters
About the
rat
poison.
poison. Yeah.
Yeah,
Poison.
yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, you know, he says you guys are rat poison. I mean, you know, and our guys have been consuming it. And he said, if they want to know how good they are, all they got to do is ask me. I'll let them know.
Well, Saban has a way of talking to his players through the media too.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've noticed
Yeah.
that.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
But that was
He-
not
he-
only directed at the media. That was to get back
directed
to
to his players.
I
right.
promise you.
Right.
Yep.
And
Now, Maurice, how would you, as a reporter sitting in Tuscaloosa when Nick would give a press conference, how would you handle something like that?
I'd be looking to get my resume out. I don't know that I could cover the University of Alabama football program. I don't know that I could have covered Indiana University basketball.
Right.
I mean, there are guys that
you just stay away from.
you know, it's unfortunate when you have a job to do and all certain people can do is, you know, make your job as tough as possible. And, you know, you ask Nick a question, you ask Bobby Knight a question, some of those guys, a question that's, you know, most sane people see it as being a perfectly reasonable question. And they just try to make you feel as small as possible by asking a professional, reasonable question. And I admire those guys that have to deal with that on a regular basis because I couldn't.
But don't you realize that maybe some of those guys do ask stupid questions?
Oh, absolutely.
That are obvious. That are obvious.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
and,
they do.
You know, Mike Tomlinson from the Steelers. I heard him speak a few years ago at a coach's clinic, and one of the things he brought up, and I'd never thought about this before. He said, you know, the media, they're waiting all day long to have to speak to me, and what I'm going to say. He said, I've got 40 other things going on before lunch, you know, and I've got all. And he said, I haven't spent any time thinking about this. I've got all this other stuff on my plate. Their whole job is this interview.
And
he
so
said
he's
they're
shooting
waiting
from
with
the hip.
bated breath to hear from me. And he's like,
But I've heard him also lash out at reporters too about stupid questions.
That's true.
Yeah.
It all depends.
It's
on
It was an obvious answer to a question that the
But-
reporter
but-
already
but
knew.
Who was the coach at Indianapolis? Playoffs.
Oh, Jim Moore.
With Nick Saban, it all depends on what kind of days he has had.
Oh yeah.
And here's what a lot of people don't get is sometimes you as a reporter have to ask a question that you even know the answer to.
Right.
But people don't care what Maurice Patton thinks about that situation. They want to know
what
what
the coach said.
Yeah.
And that's when I would interview people, that's what I think about. Not what I know, but what that guy out there sitting behind the radio does not know.
and wants to know.
And wants to know about it.
exactly.
And
exactly.
if you don't bring it up, if the coach doesn't bring it up, then you have to.
yeah.
Right. Absolutely. And so sometimes when you do that, then you put yourself at risk.
All right. Back to my question.
You mean we've gone all the way around that to come back to
I'll
this?
answer it next. I don't mind. Let me put this out. My daughter sent a text to us last night. She was babysitting. She sent a text going, "Hey, they fired Butch Jones," and my wife and I are frantically looking it up on the phone. Going, I don't see that, but it was a rumor that she had heard, and so I think it's if he makes it to the end of the season, I think it will be only because they don't want the team to suffer and try to figure out what they're going to do.
Okay,
I don't know that he'll make it afterwards.
if he goes, who are they going to bring in on a temporary basis?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
and
so
that's the other question.
Next
Who they're
year is
gonna
a tough schedule,
Yeah.
by the way. So
bring?
This year was a tough
I
schedule.
agree with that, but
Well, it
I
shouldn't
might
have been
even
as
have-
There's
tough as
still
it is.
there's still
though.
a group
I
that
know.
wants
I know.
they want John Gruden and they want him back.
Gruden-
I'm
Hey,
telling
let
you,
me
I know they
tell you
had a
about
chance
Gruden.
to get him the last time.
Gruden had
and they
a
didn't
ball last night in Nashville.
Why? Yeah.
And
He's
he
got
had
it
a
made.
ball leading up to that game.
I would like
and
to
he
have
had
him.
a ball after the game. I'll guarantee you that on Broadway. John Gruden ain't coming to the University of Tennessee, and all of you University of Tennessee faithful, get over it.
I agree with
No,
you, but
I
never
agree.
say never.
That's right. That's right.
Here's the deal. I happened to run across an article on the internet leading up to football season. Somebody at one of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers websites had gotten some time with Gruden and talked to him about a wide-ranging variety of topics. One of them was him coming back to coaching and all of the constant rumors and that kind of thing. And he said, there's too many rules for me to break coaching college football. So
true.
That's what Gruden said. Yeah,
yeah,
I read
exactly.
that. Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if he comes back, I don't believe it will be at the collegiate level. If he comes back, and I don't know that he's coming back, because like
He's
you
got
said,
there's a lot
cushy
less
gig.
pressure. There's a lot less pressure.
I had a friend tell me today. He actually texted me and said, "Hey, Ty, did you know Lane Kiffin said he wants a second chance?" So,
That's about the only
How
person
would
I
that
know
go?
they won't bring in.
well, I looked. I'm
He's
looking.
the
We don't
only
even mention his
person on
name.
the planet
We don't even mention his name in
that
my
they
house.
won't bring back.
Tennessee next year, though, they've got for the 2018 schedule. They open up at West Virginia. Then they're home to ETSU, UTEP. Then it gets into SEC play with Florida, at Georgia, at Auburn, Alabama at home, at South Carolina. That's pretty tough 5-game stretch for a first-year coach too. I mean,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Wow.
depending on who the first year coach is, and you know, like you said, Dan, if you're gonna make a move, you need to have some idea of who you're gonna get. Now, to answer your question, he may make it through the season. I don't think he makes it past the season. And my
That's what I
thing
think.
is,
I
think
so too.
I feel like the decision has been made. Wow. And if it has been made, then the question becomes, if you know what you're going to do, why not go ahead and do it? Because you don't want him to play his way back off the ledge.
so
But look at his body language on Saturday.
Wow,
Every
it
move
said a
up and
lot.
down that sideline said the same thing that Garantano said, or whatever
During
the guy
Georgia Tech.
during Georgia Tech.
Right.
You know,
I don't
I'm
want to be
losing-
here.
I'm losing my job. I'm doing the best I can do. I cannot go out there and play the game myself. Somebody help me. I mean, it
But-
looked like a desperation walk up and down those sidelines.
perfect for a perfect world for Butch Jones. If he was to win out, including this Saturday at Alabama, you think he can save his job?
No.
If he beats
No,
Alabama,
if he beats Alabama,
he's
if he
got his
beats
job.
Alabama, he's
he's
good.
got his job. He's good.
If he beats Alabama, the next thing he'll do is walk on water.
Well, yeah.
I didn't say that it was,
Yeah.
Agree.
Yeah.
And I don't mean and no disrespect
I
to
understand.
FCA. I mean just saying that I don't think
It's not gonna
Dan's
happen.
backing
He
up a
won't.
little bit.
No. I'm not backing up. I'm out of respect for my FCA man here. I don't want to give any. I don't want to misconstrue my comment. I'm just saying is that's more likely for him to happen than to beat Alabama.
And the thing, especially a week after losing to a mediocre South Carolina
best.
Right.
team.
Right.
But think
At
about
best.
it. We could have easily lost to UMass.
Right.
Yeah, we don't even talk about UMass.
Right.
I mean, the
If
only
that
way
quarterback
UMass should
doesn't
score
go out,
should have
you
been
probably
against
do
the
lose
third
to
agree with that.
UMass.
I
You
mean,
lose
that
to, and you could have easily lost to Georgia Tech. So,
All right, let me ask you this: how does Molly handle UT losing?
Not good.
Not fun.
I can answer that one.
I
Not
watched-
good.
And you've been in the press box. You know, I watch
Yeah.
the game. I'm looking at it. I'm analyzing. I may make a comment now and then. She's screaming and yelling.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
she's, I can't believe they did that. Did you see them do that? And she gets upset.
Well, she's going to be.
She's a big UT
she-
fan.
She's going to be real upset next Saturday. I hear
I
that
don't
they're
know.
already a 4-point underdog to Southern Miss.
UT.
Yeah.
I was looking at Southern Miss schedule while
there
we were
was-
talking. I mean, they're not a bad football
Now
team.
to give the boys, and I can't roll off their names at 104.5. They said Southern Miss coach would be a good.
I don't
Fit.
even know
Coach
who's
for
down
good
there
fit for
now,
Tennessee.
But, I think Tennessee needs to get somebody established. You know, not somebody
They
from
need
a
to get a-
non-Power 5.
Right. They need to get a high
If-
profile
if they
coach.
keep their pattern up, you know,
we beat UMass, so we'll hire their coach. I mean, that's what we did for Butch. You know,
Gracious.
Yeah, that was Derek Dooley's big win.
that was his big win, and we hired, and we hired him. I mean, so
You know,
Here's a name.
And we did fire Derek Dooley with one game left on the schedule. So you know,
Here's a name. Dan Mullen.
yeah,
Yeah.
his name's been kicked around.
Interesting.
But is he available?
I think he might have run his course in Starkville, and if you do what he's done in Starkville over an extended period of time, with what he has to work with down there, you have to wonder what he could do with expanded resources.
But is he going to come with baggage?
At this point in time, everybody's got baggage. But I just like I like his body of work over at Mississippi State over a long period of time in that division.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'd be interested to see what he could do at AUT.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean Southern Miss. I meant Mississippi State.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
I misspoke. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It happens.
I know it does. But
Time will tell.
I'm old. So
Speaking of
forgive
time.
me. Speaking of time,
Speaking of.
we've got pizza time coming up. Thank you to Glenn and Kathy Truelove from Truelove's Pizza and Grits for supplying us with pizza and being our official sponsor for the All the Balls Sports Show.
So Saturday, if you want one thing good when you're watching Tennessee and Alabama,
Go to
get you a Truelove's Pizza because it's good.
Or have my sausage bean soup.
That's true. You guys have missed that. We'll do that one Saturday over here. We'll call everybody over and we'll do sausage bean soup.
supply the Beano because I know what it'll be like afterwards.
No, you don't.
On that note,
We are out of here. The All the Balls Sports Show. Have a good evening.